Activate.
Dumbasses.
Hey,
Oops.
hey everybody. Speaking of, welcome to This Pink Cloud. Speaking of dumbasses, no, I am DJ Kelly Reverb. Thank you for tuning in. We are a show that is about multiple pathways to recovery, all that good stuff. Please like, subscribe, share, ring that bell, brother. Right, Chad? No.
Who are you?
Who are you? I'm not talking to you. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, sitting to my left, always a pleasure to have this guy in. Anyway, I won't say it. But ladies and gentlemen, Chad Lamons.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
You can always tell when Chad's having a little technical difficulties. We've had to switch out the mixer, so Chad's in grumpy mode.
Yeah. I know. I'm in grumpy mode because you're fucking dumb, dude.
Because you're dumb. That was a good one, dude. I like that.
Dumb and you're stupid, and you're stupid because you're dumb.
There we go. Okay, well, at least you got to get that out and process. But speaking of processing,
now that we have a therapist here.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to have this guy in. Always a treat when we can get this guy in. He is an LPC, LCDC. I like to say a psychonaut. No, I like to say you are a therapist that likes to
decalcify
your pineal gland. Yeah, exactly. He's all about that. I call him the king of the north. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dusty Burrows.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm excited to be here. It's been a little while.
So I stepped on your intro. What would you say you are a therapist?
Well, I'm an LPC. I'm an LCDC. I work with families, couples.
Right.
I work with individuals. But one of the things that I focus on currently is psychedelic integration therapy, mainly with ketamine because it's FDA approved.
Right.
But also advocate for people who are going outside of that box and seeing how ethnogens, if you will.
Entheogens, I thought it was called.
Yes.
Entheogens.
Entheogens.
Right.
It's a whole different deal there. But anywho, working with people that are interested in that pathway to healing.
Okay, cool. Well, dude, we're glad you could make it, and I know we've got to get you out of here quickly today, so we're running behind already, so you're going to be late.
I got a little wiggle room.
All right.
Porquito.
All right. So, and this next young lady, I'm excited to have you back. You've been on before, but you were on with the crew from Shepherd Inn. Mm-hmm. But you got to tell like 5 minutes of your story, and we had to like shut it down. And I was like, oh, but that was going to be really good. So, I'm excited to have you back and to get to hear the entire story and ask questions and all that good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite performers, Miss Jennifer Lopez, everybody.
Thank you.
You got the hallelujah music.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bow down.
But hey, no, we're excited to have you. And your real name is Jennifer Lopez.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and that's always fun because I'm sure you know that singer? Mm-hmm. You probably get that all the time.
I do, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Jennifer Lopez in your phone. She's calling.
Nice. I love that. Okay, so anyway, I guess, I'm glad you could make it because I know you're a little bit under the weather, but I appreciate you, making it for the crew and the betterment of humanity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just happy
Here,
you're here
it's good to
because
be
it's going
back.
to take two clinicians to handle these two.
Really? That's exactly
Right.
what I was thinking. I was thinking, we're on this side of the desk.
Yeah, right. Y'all both have your notebooks
We're
out.
tag teaming it.
Yes.
All right. Well, so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit of your backstory, and then how your road to recovery, happened.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from Grayson County. That's where I was born, which is the south side of the Red River. I say that because we're back in the day, counties in Texas kind of established where you're from. Lake Texoma, grew up fishing, all those things right there, and there's a different kind of breed of people then, before Dallas merged into it. And so I was born at Wilson and Jones Hospital. My mother was
Shout out Wilson Jones Hospital. Woo. All right.
Pretty much most of my family at that time owned probably more than half of Grayson County in the Sherman-Denison area. My grandfather owned the smoke pit, which was the barbecue pit there. He had like 20 rent houses. And my other grandfather owned the meat garage, which was there for like 38 years on on Texoma Parkway. And our cousins owned the heating and air conditioning over in Crockett, which was downtown Denison by the Piggly Wiggly.
I love the Piggly Wiggly, always.
Yes. My grandmother worked for TI, and my grandfather was, I guess he was in World War II. I don't know, I'm bad at math. But anyway, he died, and my grandmother married his brother, so there's a whole weird
that
crossover.
is, yeah.
But not only that, one of her brothers married one of his daughters. There's no bloodline crossing.
Okay.
It's just, it was a very small.
Well, it's Grayson County, right?
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, I
It'll
worked there
eat you
for
up and
5 years.
spit you
I know
out
how
if you
it
don't
is.
leave.
Right.
And so, I mean, I can't tell you the first year of my life, even though I don't remember it, even the first few of them was tumultuous for my family to begin with. My father was a raging drunk, used drugs, disappeared, beat my mom, and so even though I don't remember it, I was in it. And so I have,
subconsciously, maybe, you were around it, so you remember it.
I mean, they say that's such a big, that the first 5 years of your life, even from all the way in utero to it. And he was never, even now, a week after I got out of treatment last year, he shot my stepmother. So, I mean, it.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's not jump forward. Yeah. Right.
So my bloodline, I didn't stand a chance because I didn't get much of my mom's. So my grandfather owned the barbecue pit, which was there. And at one time there, between 69 and 75, where he would go to Bell's, so east and west across, north and south, the Cardinal Inn, which was a really fancy motel back then.
Okay.
And it had the neon lights and the big pool, and they owned that too. And then my grandmother owned the bar that was next door to the smoke pit.
Right.
So anyway. And
wow.
she owned it and she ran it, and everybody in town knew who she was.
It sounds like a bunch of alcohol and meat.
Yes.
That's cool.
This is Texas.
Right.
And my mother met my father at that bar when she was 21, I think, maybe younger. She might have been able to get in.
Okay.
And so they got married. I wasn't planned. But she, of course she wanted me and everything. But his parent, so his dad, my grandfather, he had already divorced my grandmother. And Frank Turney is one of my heroes. His father was great to me. So that'll be part of my story later on. But that first year, so he disappeared all the time. He was drinking and doing all the things. My mom wasn't really like that, but she is a lot like me, firecracker and mouthy. She told me once that she knew how to keep her mouth shut, and I didn't. So I guess that's where I got that. But,
right.
I mean, my roots are just like, we're country people. I grew up listening. He listened to, Led Zeppelin and Johnny Cash, and my mom listened to Charlie Pride and Motown. Right. And so I had this, and my grandmother was Southern Baptist, and I had a good childhood for the most part. And so so she ended up leaving my dad finally after she found 50 plants behind our house, and so she was afraid they would take me.
50 plants?
Pot. He was growing.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's what I was.
1981, I guess.
Okay.
And so that was the final deal. All the other things that had happened, she moved out.
Everything else was fine, but
she took it.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a feisty thing, so most of them were. She fought back, I'm sure, more than a handful. I have this one picture. I don't have very many of them together, but she has a black eye, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, nice.
And she's wearing a shirt that looks a lot like this.
Right.
And so, anyways. She left him, and she was working in Grayson County. We were living with my grandma, which I've lived with my grandma multiple times. And she met my dad, who was working. He was regional, whatever, for Jim Walter Homes, and so she was a secretary
and anyway. Growing weed on the side.
No. This is. She left him.
Oh, okay.
And so she ended up. We moved in with my grandmother. So
gotcha.
I'm trying to get to how I got to Tulsa. So my dad, who has been there my entire life. So they met when I was 2. And so he's been there since then. They just celebrated 39 years together, married on last Saturday. And he was a Hispanic man from a Catholic family, and we were white Southern Baptists, so it was a little bit different. And he was a very authoritarian sort of person. And my mom was very cold. She went through a whole bunch of stuff super early. She lost her dad and her sister in the same year. She lost one of her friends when she was a little kid that got kidnapped. Her boyfriend died whenever she was 16 in a motorcycle crash, and she had surgery to have her thyroid cut out. So this is all the time.
Do we need to have your mom on the show?
She's not one of us.
Yeah,
but she's
okay.
a very sort of stoic, kind of cold person. So there was no real nurturing.
Uh-huh.
We were in a really bad car wreck when this is my first memory. I was almost 4, so 3, and we got hit by a semi from going home from we lived in Tulsa for a little while. From Grayson County to Tulsa, 2-lane road, semi hit us, and twice actually jackknife hit us again. And so I was in a body cast for like a year.
Oh, wow. And how old were you when that happened?
3, almost 4 September, so I turned.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a little kid and you're mummified.
Yeah. This will tell you a good example of what my father was like. So my mom's brother had to go find him because he was fishing out on Lake Texoma. That's where he knew exactly where to go.
Right.
But they air flighted me to Oklahoma City. My first memory, I was somebody opening the back seat to that. I remember the light from the sun was going down and the time of day that it was. And I remember the door opening. I don't know who it was because it was a shadow, I guess. And so that was my first memory. And then it was just, all before that, all that chaos.
Right.
So we spent a year. No, we've moved to Tulsa at this point. And then I'm in preschool doing the things. Dad's working all the time because he's on the road, and it's me and Mom most of the time. And then they enrolled me into private school, private Catholic school.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I grew up Catholic, so I know about it. I mean, there is some strict elements to it depending on where you're placed in the Catholic schooling system.
Well, we had to convert.
I just felt like that was perfect.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just did. I did it.
Okay, good job.
Well, we had to convert from Southern Baptist to Catholicism, which I didn't really understand, why we were doing all that.
Right.
So I was confused a little bit because I didn't really know. There was all these different things that people had, like, why, you're Catholic, you're Baptist. And I just thought everybody was the same.
Right.
Like, even as a little kid, I just always thought, let's just all be happy, be friends, and get along. And I didn't see colors, I didn't see names, didn't see all of those things. Well, the world... is unforgiving, and you get to learn. So my innocence. Whenever I got to Catholic school, we were a biracial family. We were, from a broken or I guess, remarried home. He was Hispanic, and we're in Tulsa in 1986.
Okay.
And so it was just, they were very different than what I knew. And so that was I never really cared much about fitting in, and I never really cared about what other people thought.
Right.
In fact, I always fought for the underdogs. I like to be friends with the people that everyone thought was strange, but I thought they were neat.
Right, like Chad.
Yeah.
Shut up, dude. I'm an underdog.
But they, let's see. So my
He's
mom.
been touched by the Lord.
Oh, I forgot about this. So I had to wear special shoes to turn my feet in.
Oh, okay.
So Forrest Gump, they had braces on them.
Oh, from the
Little Mary
accident.
Janes. No, actually, because I walked like my father, and it was like duck.
Oh, okay.
And
it was genetic.
Yes.
Okay. Run, Forrest, run.
Yes. I don't
Right.
even remember how old I was.
Yeah?
Yes, people always say that when I tell them that. That's exactly what it was like.
Well, we already feel bad for you now.
It's okay.
There you go.
So they thought I was slow because they tested my hearing. That's why we were talking about that earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And then I wasn't. I was just bored and didn't want to listen.
Right.
And I needed a lot of, I guess, stimulation because I had a very, very big imagination.
Right.
So by the time I'm 7, they have to do a week-long test because my mom she just wanted to know that she wasn't crazy, but she knew something was wrong with me. And so they tested me and I had severe ADHD, but this is also Oklahoma in 1987. And so, they didn't really know much about it then, but my mom was not going to let them put me on medicine. She just wanted to know that there was something wrong and how to fix it. And, bless her very neurotic heart, we had lots of structure because of that. But because they were so cold as parents, there wasn't a lot of nurturing. There was a lot of reprimand, but they didn't understand my condition either. And they have since understood, and we've had conversations about it. But for them, I just was always in trouble.
Right.
Because it was like, why can't you just sit still? Why can't you just pay attention? Why are the principals calling me all the time? Why are you fighting with people? Why are you, skipping in the background, in the class? Well, I was bored out of my mind. And so I got in trouble a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was difficult, especially when I had 2 parents that really didn't understand. I didn't understand what was wrong with me either. And I had already all this adversity. So every summer for the time, as long as I can remember, I spent a month with both my grandparents in Laredo and then in Grayson County. So and then I so as far as school, I mean, my parents were good people. They just were strict, and I had the genes of,
Yeah.
Blackfoot Indians. So
Right.
I'll get to that. Yeah. Crazy. Drunks.
Firewater.
Yeah.
Right.
French and Indian.
Right.
So private school up until, I guess, 8th grade. And then I was playing sports. I played sports all the time. I was a natural athlete and good at it. So thank God for that, because that kept me busy and probably out of a lot more trouble than I would have gotten in.
Right.
But then we moved, and so then I got to go to public school.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Right.
But before that, I hung out with my cousin all the time whenever I would go stay with them for like a month at a time. She was my age. She was my mom's brother's kid. And so my aunt didn't care what we did. So there every summer it was learning to ride four-wheelers. Like I learned to drive a car in Colbert State Park at the age of 12. And they let us drive the four-wheelers into town. And so it was like I learned like it early, drinking, fighting, fucking cowboys, right?
Right.
And so I actually got drunk with her the first time. I was 13. And Boone's Farm Lemonade and Mad Dog 2020.
There you go.
How old were you when you got discharged from Catholic school?
Probably about that time too. Yes.
Right.
And I got drunk the first time I drank, and I never once had ever tried to control or enjoy it.
Yeah.
I drank.
It was just like
Yes.
hammered the first time, right?
And every time I did, I looked for it to do that. And it was the same, through high school and stuff. Gratefully, I spent most of it grounded because I got in trouble for smoking pot on the way to practice. And then they found, some other substances like LSD.
Well, so, but going to public school, do you think that affected like everything? I mean, it seems like there was probably a lot more opportunity to go awry with public schooling versus being in, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I mean, they both were in Tulsa.
Or Catholic school.
I don't really know.
No?
I think I would have just done it anyway.
Right. Gotcha.
Wherever I was. And so because of those, at least it kept me, I think I would have been a lot worse if I hadn't had my parents, hadn't been a very good athlete, played varsity as a freshman and all through high school. And so, that's what I had. Mm-hmm. Plus my mom was the type of like, if you don't do your chores, I'm not taking you to practice. Well,
right.
Practice, you don't play. So they found ways to,
manipulate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then I turned 18 and I left the house a week later. I packed all my stuff in my truck.
Okay.
And I took off to my grandma's house and so I stayed
in
with
Laredo
her.
Or Grayson?
Grayson County.
Okay.
She was in Denison.
Okay.
And by this time I'm very familiar with it because I went there all the time and I can drive now, right?
Yeah.
So, and I went to school at Southeastern Oklahoma State, which is just across the border in Oklahoma for a year. Mm-hmm. And then I found the hippies.
Okay.
So I went to a concert in Antioch, Tennessee, and then I came back and I quit school and I went on tour and followed a band around the country for like almost 3 years living outside with a bunch of hippies.
What was the band?
Widespread Panic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because
Morning
Garcia
Jacket.
died in '95, so I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. It couldn't be the Dead.
Yeah, and I'm not a big Fish fan. So.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, what is it?
Is anybody though?
Thank you.
Is anybody
Can
really
you make
a
noise
big
on
Fish
that
fan?
one? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, man.
So anyway, so you're following them 3 years, huh?
Mm-hmm. Living outside.
And I'm assuming
awesome.
that psychedelics go hand in hand with this journey.
And drinking wasn't, it was always there and it was around and it was easy. It was part of it. But it didn't really start to get bad until my 20s, whenever I kind of intermittently, I guess, whenever I'd come back here and there. Drinking always came first, but it didn't start, the consequences didn't start to happen. I think the first time I got arrested, I was 16. I was in high school. 19 when I was walking into the Merle Haggard concert.
Merle Haggard,
21
okay, shout out.
DUI, 22 DUI, and some PIs somewhere in there too.
Yeah.
So I was going to jail early.
Yeah.
Because, I think I'm Waylon Jennings and John,
right.
Wayne,
You're an outlaw.
Tall.
You're an
That's
outlaw.
right.
That's right.
Cowboys,
I'm from Grayson County and I'm an outlaw.
Yes.
Right.
And so, it sounds like everybody else's story for the most part. That's what it was like growing up.
That doesn't sound like
drinking
anybody else's story.
Well, maybe the drinking part of it.
I feel like we're cousins.
So that's what I did. I lived outside. I drove a 4-wheel drive truck. I dated cowboys and, the blue collar men and all the things that my parents wanted me to stay away from.
Right.
And the truth is like, I've said this already, but like, I never cared what other people think, but I never could make them happy. And it was so hard for me to realize that like, they didn't like who I was. And I was never different from the day I was like, I can remember, I knew who I was at like 5.
Right.
And I've never been any different.
Right.
And,
You've always been your authentic self.
It's just a little different.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, but then do you perceive that people don't like your authentic self?
Oh, I don't care. And I never did.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right.
I like me.
Right.
I always kind
There
of
you
like
go.
me. I mean,
Okay.
my big Texas-sized ego gets in the way, and there's some of it.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But it made it hard for me for them because they were so disapproving because I wanted them to accept me for who I was, even though I was smart but I didn't like school because they, try to make me conform and fit in those boxes and follow the rules. And
Sure.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
And so it was like that when I got married in my 20s too. And I'm like, I'm not a domesticated kind of lady, and I don't plan to be.
Right.
But there was, the rules of society, rules of being an adult, all the things I didn't learn because I didn't want to, because I wanted to live like a gypsy or an outlaw.
Right.
Whatever you want to
Yeah,
call
sure.
it. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun though. I wouldn't take a lot of that back. Bands,
I love that you
concerts, music.
say that because I hear that a lot with people in recovery. Like, my best day in recovery is, or my worst day at. How's that go?
My
Let's fuck that up.
worst day sober is better than my best day high.
And I always think that's complete bullshit.
It is bullshit.
I always had a lot of really good times.
Right.
Me too. Lots of bands, lots of concerts, lots of music. Because music was my only saving grace, and it was the only thing that was consistent. At like 14, when I fanned the dead, I was like, I have found my people, and everything just made sense. Their way of living, their way of thinking, like everybody just loved one another. Like that's where I fit in.
Right.
And so I didn't understand how come everything was so rigid outside of that, and I learned a lot, like hard lessons that the world is not what they tell us as kids. And so the accepting part of that, I don't think I learned until I was in my 30s and I was in school, and then, my professors teaching me those things.
Right.
And so I'm still drinking. There's still all these consequences and all of the things. And then.
Well, I tell you what, let's cut to commercial real quick, Chad. I don't know if you have the Maxwell, the Axwell slide ready. But anyway, that is the sponsor of our show. It is Lone Star Injury Attorneys. And if you go to thispinklawyer.com, it will take you to Lone Star Injury Attorneys.
Or it might not.
No, it will.
Or maybe not. It just depends on your internet, I guess.
Right. Anyway, but he is practicing in Texas and California.
Probably.
He will get you the maximum results for your injury and your personal injury needs. Max the X.
Max the X. That's a cool name. I said it. Kelly didn't say it.
Anyway, and then also, Chadwick, we have some new stuff out. All right, and we are back.
Yeah, man.
Those actually, the Donald Glaude remix and the original are streaming on Spotify, so check that out. And then the Reflector, the Arcade
Fire is only on SoundCloud for right now.
for free
until we
download.
Figure it out. And it's a free download.
Yep.
And it's dope.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's dope.
Good job, Chad.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so back to your story. You're traveling with the dead. You had found your people, your tribe, so to speak, and but then you're married at the same time, and it sounds like those kind of worlds don't necessarily mix.
Well, it was a little bit later. I had moved to Fort Worth. I had gone to jail I got a year in Parker County, but I did like 6 months.
Well, don't brush over the jail part. So
I
how
went to
did
jail
you?
so many times though, y'all.
How like
In
I mean,
lots of different counties.
She's like, she
said it when she was smiling.
She was like so happy. Well, so like I mean, what were like the charges? Like, why did you go to jail? Like,
Fighting,
just give us one.
drinking, public intox, evading arrest, DUIs.
So raising hell basically is why you.
I thought I was really an outlaw, y'all.
Okay, all
That's
right.
one way to explore your wanderlust, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to go county by county.
Right.
Yeah, man.
I think it's like 15,
How
16
many?
times. In
How
the
many?
county
How many?
area.
I was going to say how many mug shots are out there.
I don't know.
No, you don't know.
Maybe 20.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right.
Probably at least 20.
All right.
If you count the walkthroughs, you know.
Sure.
Okay, and so I had met him later on after I had moved to Fort Worth because I thought, you know, geographically relocating all the things that we do to try to,
Of
you know,
course,
avoid
yeah,
being
if
an
you-
alcohol- I mean,
yeah.
I tried everything to prove to myself, every form of self-deception, every form of different this, don't do this, and just to this river of denial that I was floating on, that I was alcoholic because, I mean, I knew it was in our family, but I didn't want to settle down. I didn't want to have that issue.
Right.
I didn't want to not drink.
Sure.
Ever.
You weren't done with your partying. You weren't done with your sowing your wild oats.
I never planned to be. So
Right.
that idea
I
of
was
what
going to be a
that looked
lifer, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it made it difficult to live in a world like that today when you have a record for everything. You can't rent places. You're in jail however many times. Your dad has to take you to jail. Your mom can't go in because she's out in the car crying. You know, they've left me in jail. I've spent more than a handful of times. And it's just, I'm doing all the consequences have caught up. Every firm resolution that I made to stop, I would mean it. And then it would just be what I didn't understand what was wrong with me. I was completely ignorant, nor did I care.
Right.
And so
You were truly the ignorance is bliss kind of thing.
I was more
right?
like, fuck it and fuck you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then, so we'll just, not really fast forward. I went to treatment and once I didn't learn anything. It was just a party and a vacation away from my husband.
Right.
And then I found out I couldn't have kids because I had lost a baby and then I had bled internally and I had some problems. And then I think reality set in and I was like, I have absolutely nothing to offer. I'm a bartender and I got nothing, no education, nothing to offer this world at all. So I'm going to drink a bottle of Jack Daniels every day and pray to God and never wake up. And I did that until I passed out in my car in downtown Fort Worth, and the cops knocked on the door or the window, and I was like, I took the keys out, the car's not on. You know?
Yeah. Right.
That's not a
me-
driving while intoxicated.
Leave me
I'm asleep.
alone. Yeah.
Technically, it was my fourth.
Right.
And so they took me to jail, and it was a felony charge. And so at this point, I have no idea what's going to happen. And so I thought they were anyway. I drove drunk again for 3 more weeks because I am an alcoholic and I have mental obsession. I cannot stop. So knowing that all was going on and I was going to go to court, that still happened. So they put an ankle monitor on me 3 weeks later when I had to go to probation and I had a choice. So they told me, 10 years probation or you can do 4 years TDC. And I mean, I'm scrappy, but I'm not like prison type scrappy. So
Yeah.
I was scared of going to prison. And so luckily by the grace of God, because God just keeps looking out for me all the time, there was this program. It was the only one at the time that Texas had was Tarrant County, was the Felony Alcohol Intervention Program.
Okay.
And so I signed for 7 years TDC, but it was 4 years probated on the conditions of this program.
Right.
And I
Now,
had to
how
do
long is the
everything.
program?
It was 4 years.
The program is 4 years itself. Okay.
And
And you're actually out in, the general population
Yes.
or, okay.
And it was phased, kind of like drug court was. I had to go to court once a week, meetings in 90 days. I couldn't drive a car. I had
Do you have the
probation once a week.
breathalyzer on your car? Or?
Eventually, I
yeah.
did. And then there was a ton of stuff. And then I had to go to therapy and all these things. So by doing that, they made me go to therapy.
Yeah.
And I had this, man, those people were amazing. They saved my life. So I did. And if I didn't do what they said, they would report it to the court. And then that meant I was going to go to prison. So I was scared. And I did what these people
Right.
said. And I remember walking in and the therapist being like, sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, take off your pretty little halo or get the fuck out of my office because somebody else wants your seat.
Right.
And I was like, damn.
Ooh.
Wow.
Right.
And I even have goosebumps now just thinking about that because still to this day, she's the only treatment plan I saved out of all the things that because she told me like that was what somebody needed to tell me.
Yeah. She spoke your language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I did. And then I had this other therapist I did the IOP with, and he was this older black man who had been sober from crack for like 30 years. And he sounded like Morgan Freeman and he dressed like,
But Chad can sound like Morgan Freeman.
dude.
Go ahead, do it.
Oh man.
Give us Morgan Freeman.
What did the first therapist say?
Sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, take off your pretty little halo or get the fuck out of my office.
Sit the fuck down. Shut the fuck up. Take off your pretty little halo, or get the fuck out of my office.
Pretty good, right?
That's as good as I could do.
Yeah, that was all right for quick notice.
Yeah.
Well, I had to work the program and do the steps and go to meetings, and so I did. And I found a sponsor, and I oh God, embarrassed. Growing up at 31, when you have the mentality of a 12-year-old.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're
it was
all
embarrassing for the first 2 years.
I mean, I think I was in a little bit of an arrested development as well because of the whole DJ thing. Hey, man, I don't want to grow up. You know, it's, you know, I think that's a common problem, you know, but I mean, what is grown up, you know?
I don't know. I still act like I'm 6 even now.
Exactly.
But there's a different
Right.
world. And so I did all the things, but he wrote down on a piece of paper on one of those things, and he said, "Do you want to know what the key is to long-term sobriety?" And I was like, yes, because at this point I was getting the good things and all the things back, and I was doing all the things, and I really had given myself to all of it.
And how long was this into the program?
I think at that point I was like a year sober.
Okay. All right.
But they left an ankle monitor on me for 6 months,
Sure.
thankfully, because
Yeah.
I would have drank. And he wrote purpose, and that just made sense. And so I took one class in school, and I took a humanities on like Wednesday, and I remember having this like overwhelm, like a calling, like priests or people or nuns say they have. I mean,
You've been anointed.
out of body experience,
Right?
Where I'm sitting in this humanity class because I wanted to be a social worker, and I wanted to help people first start with the LCDC. Like I was like, I got to do something with this. If this is going to be my life, like I got to do something with it because otherwise, all that stuff I did didn't make any sense.
Right.
And so I went that route, and I remember that moment, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. Like I know that even now, and a lot of people don't get to experience that. So it was, I still remember how it felt. It was awesome. And so I ended up doing all the things. I went to like 3 campuses in one semester just to get in, and I went to school, and I was good at it. And I graduated with my bachelor's degree. And then I applied for my master's. I mean, all this stuff I couldn't believe was happening. And it was all because I was sober.
Right.
I mean, I still had to work a program because the court made me go.
Well, but it also sounds like the key word was purpose. Like
did
you
find a
actually
purpose.
found a direction. And once you find that direction, you're all in. You know?
And I'm an overachiever thanks to my ADHD and all the things
Right.
from my family, you know, being neglected.
I'm an overachiever.
Look at me, all the accolades. So they
Right.
pat me on the back.
I think it's a testament to the story, though, because everybody wants to be a counselor when they get out of rehab.
Oh, yeah.
But the percentage of people who actually follow through are very small.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
to follow through with all of the things that it takes is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know?
Dusty is just the toughest dude when it comes to holding the mic.
Wrangling the
I
mic.
dude,
You need to get me one of those Bobby Brown.
dude, you need like the priest one, dude.
Strap it on like a feed bag, dude.
It will have to be right here.
Right.
Like an orange ball.
So, gag, like a gag ball, dude. We'll get you some kind of harness.
But and I was going to say this too, because you said something earlier about ADHD at a very young age, which sometimes surprises me. Have you ever like looked back on it now, being a clinician, and I've heard lots of stories and theories and thoughts about kids who experience so much trauma like you did early on that it's not so much ADHD sometimes, but complete dissociation. So you wonder, like, why isn't so-and-so paying attention in class, at home? Because they are somewhere that they feel safe, and it's not in that room.
Big brain, little brain, yeah.
Yeah, and that really resonated with me. And I don't know how you thought about that as well. You know, trying to see it from both sides at this point
I
from your
have.
personal experience.
And it's both, even as I got older, because I never took medications until I was 38. I didn't have to. But I had stuffed all that down for all those years. So whenever it finally came up, like in this, it was like, oh crap, like, cause there's a lot of parallels with it for as far as like the symptomology of it. And it was hard to differentiate sometimes either one, but it didn't really matter because if I put the program in place, then it worked for whatever it was, you know, if I did what they told me to do, you know, and I practiced principles and all the things, it countered both at that time. And so a lot of it I didn't really remember, you know. I had a lot to focus on, and so I guess I just kept with the driving force of all that self-will and self-reliance and knowledge, and I'm going to fix myself with a bunch of books and all the things. And that was kind of where I was headed with it.
Okay.
So ultimately, you know, I drank again.
Right.
And so I had a boyfriend at the time who had rapid cycling bipolar, and he went through electroshock therapy. And so
Wow.
that psychiatrist gave me a book on families living with bipolar or something like that. I read the whole thing. I just couldn't. I mean, this insatiable desire to know all
dude,
things.
that even sounds crazy, like the rapid cycling bipolar.
Yeah, it was. And I was sober through all of the insanity.
No, it's like, go fuck yourself. I love you. Go fuck yourself. I love you. Yeah.
So here's where the trauma as an adult really begins.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. And he completed suicide ultimately. And so it was what it was. I believe part of his purpose was to get me on that, because I truly believe that I'm very good at what I do when it comes to that as far as the social work goes.
Right.
And it put me on a different sort of path of what I was headed for, because I didn't want to just be tunneled into just doing drugs and alcohol. I wanted to really help people that society threw away and that everybody gave up on, and nobody believed that they could recover. I wanted the hardest of the hard to be able to help, because I knew what that was like. And so that's how I ended up going through grad school the same way, was doing all those things. And so my mentor said, if you can work at the county level, you can work anywhere. So I went and got a job at JPS.
Okay.
And it's still to this day my favorite job.
Right. And what is JPS for those?
It's the county hospital in Fort Worth.
Okay.
But they have a psychiatric emergency center and step down units and outpatients, and they've got a ton of places all over the county that they service people. And it was a good program. My favorite, of course, was where everybody comes in from the back, either strapped in, or with the cops, yes,
right,
and psychotic. And I wanted that because, one, it kept me busy all the time, and two, man, it was fun, and I just felt like I was in my zone. And that was what it was for a while, and then it wasn't, because I made a man my god.
Yeah, I have scary memories of JPS as a child. I was going to ask you, so you were going through this life of abstinence, right? What did you find yourself cycling through now that it wasn't drugs and alcohol?
Men.
Okay.
Yeah, they in my story, every single time that it's something has happened after that, it's been because of a man. And so his was what it was. I don't think he was ever really going to have any longevity, between
Right. Now, do you think you just, because there wasn't that when you were younger, or
well, did you hear about both my fathers?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I didn't get to the part where he shot my stepmom last year.
What? Okay.
And then one that was absent and one that was just didn't want me. And so I had, I'm a good old fashioned statistic when it comes to that.
Okay.
And probably still thought I was special at the time before I realized I wasn't.
I can fix him.
Yes. Oh, he loves me. He'll be okay. That's not how that works. And so I ended up having to go my own way because it was going to take me down, right? And I was still in this program, and he was jeopardizing my freedom and all the things by having those things in the house. And so I had to kind of separate it. And then whenever I finished, I fell off the wagon pretty quick after that, because I had no program. I had no principles. I had no spiritual condition.
Was the go-to always alcohol? Yeah.
Always. Yeah. It was always my solution.
Yeah.
The easing comfort that comes with that first drink, I wanted,
Yeah.
because everything else I didn't know how to fix, not really. I had worked through the kid stuff, like with them when I was in therapy. It was all the early stuff we worked through, but I didn't know what to do with it when it came as an adult. So I'm grateful for the time that I had it. And then I realized I needed a geographical relocation because I couldn't get the board here after finishing graduate school. And he was very sick. And so I moved to Oklahoma.
Okay.
And the board was real easy to get in with them because they didn't have a whole bunch of social workers, and they were on a first name basis. So that's where I started. And I moved in 2018. I drank for like a year because I was away from everybody and everything, and I was miserable. And then I had to hospitalize a 5-year-old little girl who was trying to kill her. I mean, she was avidly trying to stab herself with anything there. And I was just like, I can't, one, do kids because I can't have them. And that was just, I just couldn't do it. And then two, like, I am in a very dangerous position I have no people here. I don't know anybody. And I am going to drink myself to death if I don't stop doing this, because it goes really fast.
Sure.
And so I got sober there, and I had a sponsor there, and I was doing all the things there. And then there was another him.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Yes, I moved because I got a really big girl job. I passed the board, all the things. I mean, all the things the program gives us whenever we quit drinking. But I wasn't doing really anything. Like, I didn't understand this program even then. Like, I really thought I could go to school and fix myself.
When you're referring to the program, you're talking about 12 steps,
yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Just want to clarify for those that might not be aware.
I tried like I said, I tried every other way, but every way. I was in so much denial. Like, I was living a life of denial, like just delusional. Everything was just fake or false or somewhat made up or countered or altered or maladjusted, everything. And it's so crazy looking back on it to think about how I was just insane. Sober, I was insane, drunk, all of that. I mean, just insane. I had such a chaotic life, I guess, that I didn't really know what living by principles, I guess, was.
Right.
Or doing the right thing. And, you know, I mean, I came from a good family, but it was different.
But your blueprint might have been skewed a little bit, let's say.
Yes. And I thought going to school would fix me and I wouldn't need to go to AA meetings anymore.
Right.
I'm not one of those people, right? I'm special.
Right.
Not true at all by any means. And so I moved there, did all the things, got my license, and I got a really good job. And so I moved to Ponca City, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Which, if y'all know, it's 25 miles south of the Kansas border. And
Right.
there's nothing but wind turbines out
Right.
there. And a bunch of meth.
Yeah.
And people with a very low IQ.
Okay.
That's just a rural Oklahoma for you, and it is what it is. And so there's
Shout
no
out.
meetings. There's nothing out there. And I couldn't really relate with the people that I worked with, but my job, I loved it. So then my job became a higher power before a man came along. And I was good at it, and I was getting all the things. And
What was your
finally
job
I
out
had
there?
arrived. So I ran a PACT program, which is a program of assertive community treatment. And
Okay.
so I specialize in psychotic disorders, so you had to have a psychotic diagnosis in order for you to be on that program.
Right.
It was funded by the government.
Sure.
In order
Acting,
to yes, money. 13 counties, and there were 2 programs, one in Stillwater and one in Ponca City.
Okay.
And it was to reduce the suicide completion rate and the readmission rate of the hospitals and crisis centers and things like that.
All right.
And all those things were great until the heat came along, and then I don't know how to do those things. You know, I don't know how to be in a relationship with people, and you know, and so eventually he was different. I say this this time because all the things were pretty normal as far as like what alcoholism looks like up until this time, whenever people are covert narcissists, and there's real evil in this world, real evil. People are very bad, and I experienced that with this last go round, and so it beat me into a state of reasonableness by the time I got back here. And I knew I would ultimately be coming back to Texas because my family was here and I missed them. And I didn't want to live in Oklahoma, you know,
Right.
not forever.
Sure.
And I was a Texas girl, y'all.
Yeah.
And so I had planned on it. But I got kidnapped and then I escaped from that. And so I thought I would, you know, moving to South Texas where my aunt was and starting
So
over
kidnapped by
with the boyfriend that I had a protective order against.
so
But his cousin was the sheriff of the next county over, so no one ever did anything.
okay.
There's a lot of that
it's
in
like
Oklahoma.
movies.
Yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
lot of that
I
in
did not
Oklahoma.
know any of that kind of stuff. I was naive, very
Right.
naive, and with my ego and naivety was not a good combination.
So when you say kidnapped, I mean, did he take you elsewhere, or was it just you were held like in a shack against your will?
In a trailer.
Okay.
In a
Right.
trailer.
Yeah.
Yes, and handcuffed to a piece of furniture.
Really? Wow. Okay.
And luckily, I escaped with nothing on but a little tiny tank top.
Right.
And then I drove away, and I had people get my things, and I was out of Oklahoma in 2 days. And I have not been back yet since.
Right.
Yes. And so I had a friend who was trying to get out of Oklahoma and go back to South Texas that he wanted to leave and go back home.
I can
There's
just
a
see
he.
that. I can just say Oklahoma will handcuff you to your trailer.
Y'all.
It's like a T-shirt.
It was,
Yeah,
was-
I know, but that's
it
like
was they're
horrible.
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
There's just things that I really didn't know that there were in this world. And
Yeah.
people that, and
Yeah.
so blind to it. And embarrassed because it's like, here I'm a therapist. Like, how did I not see all these red flags? But I'm sure they were there, but I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
So I got to South Texas, and about 2 weeks in, I realized how stupid I was all over again. This man that I had gone with, you know, and why he was dangerous and he knew very dangerous people, and I had to escape again from there. And I came back here and was in hiding for about 3 weeks, and I was just pacing the floors with a 20 gauge shotgun and a 9mm, and I was like, "Come through the fucking door, man! I dare you." I mean, I was that crazy at that point. And then that willing to cross that line because I was so sick and tired of being scared. I was so sick and tired of drinking just to be able to keep myself from going into a nervous breakdown. I was so sick and tired of who I was that I didn't want to be here anymore if I had to live scared every day of my life. So I didn't have anything to offer anybody, so what's the point anyway? And so I was like, I went to go get money for my attorney because we had kind of rested this a whole other story. But I was driving back and I was too drunk and I had to pull over, and I actually called my parents and I told them, like, because I had been avoiding them to protect them because they had threatened to kill my family.
Right.
And so I stayed away for their sake and a lot of other things. And I called them, and so they came and picked me up. I had flipped a coin, y'all. So I was like, I'm going to kill him, kill myself, or I'm going to go to treatment.
Right.
That was rational. It wasn't. But
Sure.
at least it was something. Something in there made me want to at least live a little bit longer and be willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. Did you flip the coin?
Yes, I did.
No, you go, oh, wait, best 2 out of 3.
No, but it was heads. I'm gonna go find a pistol,
Right.
or 2, I'm gonna make that phone call to go to treatment.
Right.
And it ended up being tails, and I was like, fuck. Okay, so I made the phone calls. Like, if they don't answer, I'm going to get the pistol anyways. Default, right?
Right.
That's plan A. And they answered on the second ring, and he said, be at this address tomorrow morning at 9:00. And so then I called my parents, and they said, are we going to do this again with her? Are we going to go through this again? And my mom was like, yeah, we have to go get her. And so they pull up my 4Runner, my badass 4Runner, right? And all the things I got with all that money they gave me to work. There was a trail of beer cans, and I think I'm like a Tom Thumb parking lot. The windows are down, the music's blaring. I'm passed out, and there's hundreds all over the car because I had gone to get money to pay this attorney.
Okay.
And it was like, wow, what a sight for my parents to see again.
Right.
Right? And this time, what's crazy is this is how far they've come. It's like nobody argued with me, and they let me drink that night. And my mom had to go get me a tall boy and some cigarettes in the morning before I went into treatment because she knew I was sick. And so it was, bless their hearts, they have been amazing.
Right.
As I've gotten older, and they understand that no money, no man, no anything, all of the things, I can't get all of the things and get better. I am different bodily and mentally than regular people. And so they took me, and my voice is shaking because I literally had nothing with me other than like cut off short, like little trailer trash clothes. That's what I had because I was down at the river fishing every day and drinking.
Right.
And I didn't have anything to wear. And so my mom gave me one of her T-shirts. And I wore my 6-year-old niece's underwear and shorts into treatment because that was all I had. And I didn't care because I just said, get me there. I don't care about it. Just get me there.
Right.
And so we pull up, and I look like a skeleton. I weighed like 92 pounds and bones sticking out, and I'm pale, and my dad said I looked like I was dead already. And I walk in, and they do the things, and I'm safe because the door closes, and I know nobody can get me.
Right.
And I know that there's something different tomorrow than I've been living the last 2 years. And I tried to sleep, none of the things, but I woke up the next day and did everything they told me to do, just like they told me to do it, and I didn't think about anything else. And I remember that first day at the place that I went to, and I said at the end of the night where we do our check-ins, like, this is the best day I've had in 2 years. And so I paid attention. I sat in that chair and all the foundation meetings, and I listened and read the book, and I had such willingness and such open-mindedness that I didn't care if I lived on the streets and I was sober. I didn't care if you put me in home. I didn't care if I was in a sober. I didn't care if I ever worked ever again in my profession. I didn't care if they sent me to the nunnery. I never wanted to see a man ever again. I was so scared of him.
Right.
I did not care. All I wanted to do was just not drink anymore. And so I did everything that the lady told me, who I asked to be my sponsor, and still do to this day because I'm fired from my life and I make bad decisions, y'all. And so I cannot trust my thinking. My logic resides in the same place in my brain that my disease does. So why would I trust that? And it still plays tricks on me. And the program does nothing but save me every single day because I turn it over to something bigger than me.
Right.
And it slowly is revealing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing because I'm not in control. I'm powerless over my disease. I'm powerless over anything outside of that. And if I don't look for the direction in a higher power that's leading me to something, then I will fuck it up.
Right.
I've proven that over and over and over and over.
So I have a question for you. Do you think that there is obviously some level of codependency as well?
With
for men? Yeah.
I think I was looking to fill the hole that I never filled with the love void God hole. That would make me finally feel like I was complete, right?
Right.
Instead of really, like, I always had an open mind with like the hippie, philosophy as far as like there's a spirit of the universe, Mother Nature, but I didn't know what it meant to have a relationship with God. I didn't know what it meant to trust something so fearlessly without any tangible
evidence.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't have any idea what that was like. And I still to this day, I mean, I don't know who else that has a program like mine, who's sober, who's working it, and who is recovered, can say those things, except for that they show up in different ways.
Right.
You know, being asked to be here. I'm coming here with you guys. You guys are doing those things, and all the little things that happened outside of that. And my sponsor told me to go to Shepherd Inn because I was scared to death to go to the 2-4, but I was willing to sleep on a mat for however long.
Right, and the 2-4 is a 24-hour club, but then where you wound up was Shepherd Inn.
Yes, because it was for women, and they focused on both, recovery from a 12-step and then PTSD. And I just was scared to death of men for a little while, like being around them in the presence, all the things, right?
Well, I mean, look, you were held against your will in a trailer, and I mean, I get it. Yeah, yes. Definitely. I mean, there's definitely a stigma that I would attach to men as well.
Yeah, 30 some odd years, I'm guessing, just men are showing up as perpetrators.
Yeah.
I can imagine it's going to take a long time to heal from that.
Every day I don't look for answers, and I don't look for things that don't belong to me, and I wait for God to show up in people.
I also wonder though if you're like your choice in men because you're an outlaw.
Oh yeah, my pecker picker's broken. Yes,
your pecker picker.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, fair enough.
Yes.
So Shepherd. So Shepherd Inn, right? I've heard of pecker checker, but never pecker picker. That's funny. But so Shepherd Inn, and you're still with them currently, or
yes.
what are you what are you doing now? So
I started as a client, so I went to their 100-day free program because at this point I didn't have any money.
Point this out, like I look because I love what Shepherd Inn does. It's 100 days for free.
Yeah, up to 100 free. Yes.
Yeah,
and then it's phased by you have a couple of things you have to do, and requirements to be there.
Right.
And then it's phased down, and then there's a sober living. But it put me in with all these women who were really no different than me. I didn't tell anybody what I did. I didn't tell anybody in the program that I got, the detox I was in.
Right.
I didn't tell anybody anything about me because I literally am so scared of the woman I was the day before I walked into that place that I just let her die. That is not who I am anymore, and I never will be ever again. She's gone. And that is where she stays.
Do you still do therapy actively or
no?
Okay.
I'm not at this time. I mean, of course, the goal is to get back there, but I don't want to be in charge of really what that looks like. I applied for school, so that's I'm a PhD candidate at UTA, and so I hope that leads to something, or more will be revealed because. Me taking control of things, I'm real good at self-will and making lots of stuff happen. Square pegs, round holes. I'm an out-of-the-box thinker, and I am vigilant at fighting for vigilantes.
Sure.
My dad said, "Why do you always have to fight for the underdog?" I was like, "Because I will burn my bra at the Capitol." Doing things right that way. But I don't do it anymore. Like I live on a set of the spiritual principles that they talk about, and it's very simple things for me, like. What character defect fucked me up today? What spiritual principle am I going to fix it with?
Right.
I don't think outside of anything like that. And little things that are simple, like every thought, word, and action is either within or outside the principles of the program.
Right.
And I can't live any different than that because granted, I have a very bright brain, but I will think myself into something, all of the things that got me into those places before. And so just keep it real simple.
Right. If you leave it up to your left to your own devices kind of thing, right?
I fight for my life and make bad decisions.
Yeah. I burned my bra at the Capitol.
That's right. Although that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, that's true.
At least
that's
once.
true. Anybody have any questions? Chad, Dusty? No?
No, that's pretty gnarly, dude. That's some gnarly shit.
Yeah, for sure.
I knew it was going to be gnarly because of
I knew it was going to be good. Yeah, but it definitely was some serious stuff that happened to you, and just it's amazing, that you're here. How you grew up, and I mean, God, going back to when you were 3 years old in a body cast, and then the whole dad thing. I mean, it's a lot, man.
Yeah,
it's a lot, and we're glad you're here.
I am here to be of maximum service to God and the people about me because there's no reason I went through all that stuff except for to help somebody else. I mean, that's why.
And then also, let's give Shepherd Inn a plug. So if somebody wants to go and utilize that program,
I hope that they do because
how can they get a hold of them?
Well, you can look it up online at shepherdin.org.
Spell it.
SHEPHERDINN.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
and then you can apply for one of those programs. And being as a social worker, like knowing full well what those things look like, and I put myself through that program and just kept volunteering until eventually she asked me to work for her because she saw all the things.
Sure.
I believed in her and she believed in me, and it became this real just
symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
I needed her for different kind of things, and she needed me for that kind, like it just, God put us in front of each other at the right time.
Right. Well, I think there's something to be said for that, because I think Chad and I like have this weird kind of how we happen in each other's lives as well. So
no, we're not like that at all. Kelly sucks.
Of course.
But there is something to be said about the whole because it's like that purpose thing that you were talking about. If I went through all this crazy ass shit that I've been through to not just for no reason whatsoever, like that'd be fucking stupid, dude. That'd be really fucking stupid. That makes no sense. But when I use what I've been through and like try and pass it on to the next person, and just like hopefully save them some time and some serious fucking heartache, then that whole purpose word just starts to make way more sense.
Then all my crazy shit makes sense.
Yeah. And you can make a career out of it.
But it makes it make sense in a way.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, anyway, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah. And see, it wasn't that bad. I couldn't even tell you were under the weather.
Well, the headphones kind of make it already sound the same. So,
yeah. But anyway, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And Dusty Burrows, the king of the North, everybody. Thanks again for woo.
Good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
And then I think you're going to be here next week.
I am. Looking forward to it. Maybe even the week after.
I like it.
Yeah,
dude.
maybe just the next 2 episodes we filmed today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Next week we have Karen Jackson, and she has got
like 10 minutes.
One heck of a story. Chadwick, as always, I'm sorry about your little computer mixer problem, and I'm sure
you're not.
You've processed that.
No,
and
you're not.
Okay.
You're not sorry. You're not sorry.
You're right.
Don't say you're sorry if you're not sorry.
You're right.
You're lying to me.
I don't.
Why are you
two
lying
shits.
to me? Don't say you're sorry if you're not sorry.
Yeah, this is where we need the couple therapist here.
Team this one.
Right.
definitely.
Anyway, be sure, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.
Activate.